Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Tomboi Talks. My name is Kay Short, your host, and today I got the chance to talk to an old friend, Amanda. Amanda and I met back in college at NAU about a decade ago, in 2010. They were a mutual friend of the person I was dating at that time, and we had this nice little switchuation. And what I mean by switchuation is we lived in a suite where my partner and their roommate, they all went to high school together. The three of them went to high school together, and I was a part of the crew at that time. But they were reminding me of a time where we had a little routine where she would do the ironing and I would make the peanut butter and jellies. And I was like, I kind of remember that. And I just remember it being a really sweet friendship, and I remember that she's one of the first few people that I felt like I was able to relate to on all levels. We played video games with each other. We had the chance to talk, obviously. But unfortunately, they ended up leaving college, and we kind of just kept in touch sporadically throughout time. I reached out to them a couple years ago with the idea of Tomboi International, before it had a name, before it had anything, and I just wanted to check in with them and see how they were doing, and if they felt supported in their journey in terms of being a tomboy. But she was always one of the cool kids, had a full ride scholarship for basketball, was on varsity all the time. And as you all know, I just warmed up the bench while they got tired, and we were able to switch for a little bit, and I got some playtime. But when it came to Amanda, I always felt like we were on the same page with a lot of things. And I think at the end of the day, that's something that I always appreciated about our friendship. And it's, it is what it is that we found our life in different directions, but I'm so happy that we got the chance to talk today and get to know each other a little bit better, and that she's able to share this journey with me in terms of creating this platform for us. So I hope you all enjoy getting to know Amanda. I sure did, and I would suspect that you all get to see her very soon. So enjoy the episode. So speaking of growing up, all in your life forever, at what point growing up did you realize that you were different from the other girls?
No, so my family's pretty conservative and Mexican. On my dad's side, but I didn't really grow up with them, so I've always identified on the Mexican side. And I have a really traditional family, guy, girl, family, domesticated, the whole nine, So my mom also kind of didn't follow the norms. My mom has a thing for white guys. So and she's she's the baby of a lot. I think she's baby 8 or 10, so she got the opportunities, you know what I mean, in most cultures the older ones work and take care of the family, where the younger ones kind of got to go to school and whatnot. So my mom has definitely become very established, and so while I was growing up, she was definitely headhunting for a lot of her opportunities and going to school. So when I was younger, I want to say I was 6, my mom put me in AYS, so that Arizona Youth Sports or whatever it was. And that one, they let you do whatever the pack was. It was you played basketball during the season, then you played baseball during that season, and then you played soccer or whatnot. And while I played all of them, I just kind of pulled towards basketball. And then my mom had ran into a longtime coach of mine. His name is Tim Martin. And he worked something out with my mom where we could afford that I could play. And from there, I played co-ed teams. And then they started all women's league. And I started doing that. And then in elementary, I started playing for a school, and then in junior high, my coach started telling me to go play with the high school team over the summer league. So when I was in 7th grade, I started playing with the varsity girls, and and so the JV and varsity team for the summer leagues. But that's when I would say I was 11 when I was in 7th grade. That's when I didn't know you could be gay. I just thought that I was just really tomboyish. I just didn't like all the girly things. All my parties would have Barbies and stuff. And all my cousins would wait till my mom would leave, and they'd be like, "Hey, cuz, can I have that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, take it. I don't want that shit. I don't want that Barbie." And so that's when I'd say probably around the age of 10 or 11. I remember we had lived in a house that had a basketball hoop, And one of like my favorite gifts was it's like a yellow basket you put under the basketball hoop so that when you shoot it, the ball comes back to you so you don't have to go run for it. And I remember that was like my thing. We put it up and I would just be outside and the light would flicker, and that's when I had to come back in. So I'd say like around like 7th grade is when I knew that I was different. But when I was younger, everybody would always just be like, oh, Amanda just plays sports. Amanda's not into girly things. You know, Amanda doesn't like that. Amanda's more like the boys.
Mm-hmm. And so they never like projected anything onto you that, oh, like they might be different more than just liking the sports.
Yeah, I think it was more like it. Like me and my cousins, we were just talking about the other day, and we were like, what are we in the family? You know, like, am I considered the drunk or the whatever? I was like, what am I considered? They're like, well, you're the gay one. Like now, that's what it is. But back then, like, truly, like, almost kind of like a sheltered kind of life. Like, I literally didn't know that there was that word. I didn't know that 2 women or 2 men or whatever could be. So I just thought that I just wasn't girly like my cousins. Like, they were just like, Amanda just likes to hang out with her boy cousins more, or likes to play in the yard more. Like, it was never like you're different. It was more like just highlighting your character. Like, Amanda's not, like, they'd be like, Amanda, come play, and they'd be like, Amanda's not gonna want to come play this. Like, she doesn't want to play Barbies. She doesn't want to do that. And I'd be like, well, duh, like, I don't want to do that. Like, someone turn on the Sega, let's play the Sega, you know? It would be something more like active and more fun. But I don't think there was ever a point where I tried to be like anyone else. I think I gravitated towards more of the guys, though, because I definitely liked it. It was more fun and intriguing to my mind. But, like, just kind of, like, even, like, now, like, I remember I had a stranger come up, and they were like, how do you introduce yourself? And it baffled me. I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, you know, like, do you have to, like, explain yourself? And I was like, no, like, anybody I meet, I'm like, hi, how are you? My name's Amanda. I don't walk up like, hey, my name's Amanda. I'm a really dominant man. Like, I don't understand what you want. And so growing up, it was just that. It was just, you are who you are. We have like 70 cousins on my mom's side. So we just would be like, oh, she's the quiet one. She's shy. She's the smart one. Like, everybody just has their own identifier like that.
Yeah, yeah. So when did you start learning about the terms like gay and bisexual and lesbian, and like when did you know that you could have been one of those?
7th grade. I remember it. It was crazy. I was in a class and these 2 girls were talking shit about this 2 girls kissing, and I remember eavesdropping like, you can't do that. And they looked at me stupid, and I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, you can. I said, no, like, girls can't kiss each other. Like, that's not a thing. And they were just like, looked at me dumb, and I was like, what? And then I started getting like, can they? Like, is that a thing? Yeah. And then because in 7th grade I started going to the high school, they were older. And so that was in like early 2000, like 2000, 2001. And that's kind of back when everybody would be like, that's gay, like talking shit, you know? So some girl was like, you're gay. And I was like, fuck you, you're gay. Like, not sexually, but like, don't call me gay, the fuck? And they're like, no, stupid, like, you like women. And I was like, no, I don't. But they would flirt with me, and I liked it more than I liked how a guy would flirt with me. And I was like, what is this, you know? But I would say that's when I started like seeing what it was. And then like in 8th grade, I remember like some guys would try to like talk to me, and I would just be like, I don't like this. I don't like this. So I would say around like 8th grade, like going into my freshman year is more or less when I started identifying. But like even then it was like, I wasn't loud and proud about it. I was just more or less like, that's what I like. I've always been quiet about stuff. Like, I just like it.
So at what point, like, did you find yourself like, oh, I need to have a conversation with my friends and my family? Or did you ever?
With my friends for sure, because they kept trying to push like all these guys on me. And I was like, why? Like, I don't want, like, you guys, okay, check it out, you guys. This is what's going on with me, okay? Like, we're not doing this. We're not going to keep trying this. And And actually, I had a girlfriend going into my freshman year of high school. So that's kind of was like, you guys, like, I know what's up. You know what I mean? Like, just chill. And then everybody, of course, is like, oh, but we knew, dude. So I'll be like, well, if you knew, then why do you keep pushing? And then one of my cousins, I remember, like, her and I have always just kind of been super tight. And I was just outside, and I was like, hey, cuz, I got to tell you something. So when I said it, I mean, everybody's always kind of been like, we know, dude. Like, we've known. But then no one ever speaks on it, you know? And then I told my mom, I came out when I was like 11, and I told my mom when I was like 15.
Wow.
Yeah. That took its time.
Yeah. Why is that?
Like, my mom's super loving for sure, but I think, like, I'm telling you, like, I for real have like 70, 80 cousins on my mom's side alone. It's a big family. And then my mom has like 9 siblings. So, like, just my mom alone, there's like a whole like 100 of us. And you know how they always say there's a closet in everybody? There really isn't. Like, in my family, like, I've straight asked and everything, and I'm the only one. So, I don't know. Like, in my opinion, I think my mom had like the American dream. She had like a son, a daughter, a husband, good job. Like, so I don't think that as like an immigrant, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not like my mom like will be like, I'm an immigrant. Like, she's very just like, again, like, my mom is more of like who you are as a person. I think that's why I grew up like, as long as I know I'm a good person, I don't care about anything else. I think it just kind of threw a wrench in the picture that she had, you know, been working to put all her pieces together to set up, like, you know, I'm pretty confident almost every mom wants their daughter to have a child and marriage, and their son to do the same thing, to kind of just live a quote-unquote normal life. So I think when I verbalized it, it was like, hold on, like, no. That's not what we were supposed to do, type of thing, you know? And then also, like, if you really, like, in, like, my high school time frame, like, I started working as a freshman, which child labor laws didn't benefit me. But I started working because I felt like I needed to, which I wish I wouldn't have. But it was work and school and sports. And so a lot of times, you know how your parents will tell you that you are who you, like, hang out with? Well, being in sports the way that I was, there was a lot of straight friends, but there was a lot of gay ones, you know? And so maybe as, like, a parent, she maybe thought that she, like, watered the plant by pushing me so hard in sports and surrounding me with a certain demographic, maybe. You know, that's where I try to put myself in her shoes of, like, where she maybe felt like she was at fault, maybe.
So you're saying, so you came out to her when you were 15, and it doesn't sound like she was super accepting at first. When has she come around since then?
Oh, yeah. I was in one serious, like, relationship. And maybe that, too. Like, I wasn't in a lot of serious relationships. Like, I wasn't one to bring anybody home or show her that, like, hey, like, this is a way to normalize it. Like, I'm with the same person. I had a lot of friends throughout the time. So, to her, maybe she was like, this is just a phase or something. But, I was engaged. So before I did like a proposal, I felt it like I needed to have a more serious and more adult conversation with my mom, because at that time I think I was 25 or 26 when I decided to propose. And so we had that conversation. And I think at that point, because it had been the same person consistently for a few years, and then I was looking to do what society considers normal, right? In a unnormal way, I guess, right? I think that's when she was like, okay, like, if you're gonna go down this more traditional, like, legal route, maybe it's time to to be more okay with it. But I mean, her and I truly, not that we can't talk about it, but I think we have our own type of understandings that like we don't really communicate a lot about like personal things unless like it needs to be communicated about. So I've never once asked her like, are you now accepting of this? I just think it's more and less like in her dialogue and the way that we hang out, and you can just like see it. You can see it's more of like a relaxed presence versus like a little bit more like when you first tell somebody and they're like, don't talk about that, not here, not right now. It's more like, okay, we'll have a conversation. But her and I are both really private anyways, so it's more usually in our home.
Mm-hmm. So navigating through your life, who did you have to like turn to have these conversations?
My teammates. Yeah, like, because kind of growing up with it, like especially in high school, it wasn't completely taboo to be gay, but it kind of still was. Like at least now I'm like, dang, everybody's gay. Everybody's out.
We've been trying to tell you, but y'all didn't want to listen to us.
Yeah, everybody. Like I remember, because I started at Greenway High School. I remember like when we would have to play against like Alhambra or Maryville, I'd be like, oh, we're going to the gay schools.
Excuse me. I'm just kidding. I feel an attack right now.
But that's how it was. Like for sure, if you said those two schools, you knew that there was just more gay girls. And so like,
wait, really quick, I want to reverse that. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, dude, but for whatever reason, like I don't know if it was like the area. I don't know because even like more in Maryville, Alhambra is more of like a centralized like Latino kind of area, so it's not even like, I don't know, but for whatever reason, it was those two schools. Like you knew it.
Now that I'm trying to think back, because we're the same age, so I'm like trying to think back, like why would there be more gay girls?
That school.
It was just gay girls.
Even to this day, though.
To this day.
It's not even like we've been out of high school for a minute. To this day, like if you would have heard of like Independence High School, you didn't really think about it. Greenway, you didn't really think about it. Thunderbird, you didn't really think about it. Like Agua Fria, you didn't think about it. Millennial, but Maryville and Alhambra just have that name.
I'm concerned.
I'm telling you. I was like, I want to go to that high school.
But like straight up, being a kid at Maryville, like so being on campus, like I remember being one of the few during my cohort, right? I remember there was like probably like one like prominent couple, but it wasn't anything like crazy, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm just like, but I mean, again, like if you're playing the team, I guess that's probably where they were all at. But being on campus,
yeah,
I didn't see a lot of queer couples. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe that's a better way to say it. Because I didn't know the school of Maryville. I knew the team of Maryville. I knew the team of Alhambra. I knew the team of Thunderbird. I knew the team of, you know what I mean? So maybe that's a better way to say it, yeah.
Yeah. But I am still very curious. I'm like, I don't know. Now it makes me question, like, I wonder, I don't know, because I feel like the west side you were in, because you were far west and we were just like west side, you know what I mean? So I'm curious of like exactly what you're saying, like being in a predominantly like Hispanic area or Latino area, like Mexican area. I need to find the correct terminology, but in a predominantly Spanish-speaking area, I'm curious, traditionally coming from a very binary culture, where it is like, you have the two and that's it. But I'm curious of like what was going on far west, because I think that's where a lot of like white folks started outskirting to. Like I'm curious in culture, why would there be more in a predominantly brown community than a predominantly white community, when predominantly brown community is probably more perpetuating of the binary than a predominantly white community?
See, and I personally don't know like all the statistics, because I know that at one point, like, like when you're younger, I think it's the same thing. Like when you see the generalization, like my family thought more black people were gay than Mexicans were. And I was like, I know quite a few Mexicans that are gay over blacks, and then like in my mind, I don't know a lot of gay white people. Like in my mind, the percentage of white people who are gay is very small, but really it's not. you know? So I don't know if, like, you know, like at the end of the day, there's 7 trillion people in the world, right? And I think that you forget about that. Like, I think there's a lot of people who talk about, like, go, move. There's other places in the world. Don't think your soulmate's in your hometown. Like, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I think that everything, especially the older you get, the more localized things look. Because when you're a kid, your imagination's like, oh, I'm going to go travel and I'm going to do this. And then you start getting bills and you start getting work. And then you start being more, like, stable to your community. A 45-minute drive is like, damn, fool, I got to go all the way over there. But 45 minutes when you're young is like, oh, let's go, dude. That's just like that, you know? So I don't know. To be honest with you, I definitely know that it's within your circle. So to me, the way that I seen it, again, because I played ball, because at Greenway, we did have kind of like a mix when it came to like the team. But predominantly when I went to that school, it was majority white. I know it's changed over time. I know the demographic of it is more balanced. But like going to Maryville and then seeing mostly, you know, color, everybody was gay. So you're like, oh, this school has more. So in my mind as a kid, because the team is what represented it for me, I was like, all those little Mexican girls are gay.
Shit. Okay, I can tell you this, by the time I graduated, they were. I was like, excuse me, where did you all come from and where have you been for the past 3 years? Just took some time. It just took some time, you know?
And then even like me, when I went off to college, my first college was out in West Virginia. So I was the only Mexican girl, and I was the only gay Mexican girl out there, you know? So then my whole world was like, and then that's when you kind of start to see, like, outside of your hometown, things are very, very different.
So then so now speaking of that, who did you turn to while you were out there? Was it still your teammates?
Yeah, because when I was in, like, in high school or whatnot, like, some of my teammates I had, remember I told you I went with the YMCA? So luckily some of us were, like, I've known some of them since I was, like, 10, you know? So we kind of did, like, the last year of elementary, because I moved to a couple different elementary schools. I went to 1 junior high and 2 high schools. So from, like, I remember I went to, like, 1 elementary school I went to for, like, a month in 5th grade, and then I finished my 6th grade out. So those girls, we kind of started, like, a consistent team in the YMCA. And so we were together in junior high as well. So we played junior high ball too. And then the first 2 years that I was at Greenway, my first high school, we played. So that was more like a friendship as well. So not all of them, but there'd be some of them that we would talk. But like sometimes when I get comfortable, I'll just start letting out my info. If I don't know you, I don't care to tell you. But I'd known them for so long. And they would know, though. They'd be like, we know. Like, I'd be like, I know, fool, but like, don't act like you know. When my mom comes in here, change the topic, you know? So I'd say I leaned in on them. And then in high school, I had a couple of, like, relations. But, like, to me, I didn't feel like I had to speak on it as much because it was more like I know who I am kind of thing. It was more of, like, a fitting, where at the beginning I was, like, trying to talk and see, like, am I just tripping? Like, is it just, like, a moment? Do I just enjoy it? Or, like, do I have to identify? And I think the older I got, the more I've never felt like I have to identify as a masculine, gay, strong woman. Like, I really, truly have the persona of, like, my name's Amanda, nice to meet you. You know, you just so happen, like, oh, why don't you dress in women's clothing? I don't really like it. I don't feel comfortable. But not like, oh, because I'm a tomboy, I can't, like, I've never put myself into those. Like, you know how, like, I know you're really big on pronouns. I'm really big on, like, no pronoun at all. Mm-hmm. I don't use he, she, me, them, us, we. I use a name. Like, my name's Amanda, nice to meet you. What are you? A human. Oh, but, like, what are you? Like, oh, you want me, like, I'm a woman? You know what I mean? Like, I generalize so much that when I meet people, to me, it's more like, how are you? Like, I'm going to talk more like, oh, you're a little piece of shit. You don't have respect. You know what I mean? You don't know how to act. That's more how I've always viewed people versus, like, your dress. You know what I mean? Like, how do you speak? How do you talk? Do you know how to talk? Do you know how to, you know, present yourself in a building of strangers? You know, do you change when you're in a building of people you know? Like, that's how I've always viewed people.
So let me ask you this. So in a world that's moving in the direction about knowing ourselves and claiming and owning our identities, I'm curious of like you maneuvering through the world, like, hey, I'm Amanda. Did you ever feel like you were treated different in like professional spaces or just like spaces in general? And did you ever think like, oh, it's just because I'm Amanda, they don't like me?
No. Yes and no. So like, yes to the beginning. Like, hands down, I think that like, I know like when you first come out, everybody's proud about it. So anything anybody has to say or the looks that they give you, and I know it because like how I've told you, like I've dated some women that were like considered straight, and then all of a sudden you're dating me. They get really offended like when people make like comments or like whatever, and it reminded me of my youth, because I remember having a lot of name calling, a lot of like, I remember sometime like some guy was like, you're a waste of life, like you shouldn't be here, you get the whole Bible thumping, you know, and being really angry and feeling like I needed a clap back, like feeling like I needed to like shut you up and let you know. And the older I got, the more I was like, you don't disturb my peace. Again, you're one of the 7 trillion, like you're a speck, you know what I mean? Like, you just have to, like, to me, I grew up learning, like, it is what it is. Because I also got made fun of for, like, my family would clown on me for being white. The world clowns on me for being brown. Like, you know, so it was like, if I had to be angry all the time, you miss a lot, you know what I mean? And so in life, when I would go, like, let's say to, like, an interview, right? So, like, my undergrad is in psychology, right? So, in the psychological mind, humans, like, when they're like, I'm non-judgmental, it's a lie. Maybe you don't want to be judgmental, but your brain, the way that it's wired and triggered, the way it works, is you do. Within the first 3 seconds of meeting somebody, you judge them. Now, your experiences or who you want to be or how educated or whatever it is allow you to start peeling back layers of your judgment. But no matter what, you walk into an interview, you have a tattoo on your neck. I don't have a tattoo on my neck. So the initial judgment is, why does she have a tattoo on her neck? Now, the way that you might use your words in a sentence might be better than me. So then it's like, well, how come this one looks more educated but doesn't sound as educated as the one that has a tattoo on her neck? It happens. So I think in like professional settings or just out and about, because I do fit the category more in like the tomboyish kind of look, like hats, glasses, you know, plain tees, jeans, whatever. That's my daily kind of stilo. I think people have judged me, but if you're on a phone call with me, if you cannot see my presentation, I don't think that Amanda is judged. You know what I mean? If you can't see who I sound like, I don't personally think I sound like a man. I don't think I have the most girliest voice in the world, but I know for sure I don't have a deep, you know, strong male man voice. You're going to think you're speaking to a woman, you know? I know how to speak to my elders. I know how to speak when I want a job. I know how to talk to, like, the homies when I want to talk to the homies. So I think that who my person is, because like I told you, I identify with how I project my own image out. I don't think Amanda's been judged, but I think in my silence, I think the presence of my body gets judged.
So I guess like so when you are feeling judged and when people are in your presence, how do you maneuver through that?
Depends, I think. Like, I'm also really, what's the right way to say it? Like, I'm not afraid of confrontation, but I'm really big on, like, if you get me out of my character, you won, you know? So for me to speak on something or to address something has to truly be where, like, I can't anymore inside my own person, like, just contain it. A lot of it took time. honestly. Like I said, I used to just be like, I have to have a clap back, and like I turned more into like an aggressive kind of like, what'd you say? Like, say that shit to my face, you know what I mean? And then it's almost like when you're younger and you think you can take on the world, and then you get older. Like, I remember like one time getting blacked out, faded, and some guy picked me up, and luckily my friends were paying attention, and it reminded me, like, at the end of the day, when you're defenseless, you know what I mean? A million things could have happened to me that I wouldn't have been in control of. So depending on what type of situation you allow to come to your door, that's when I started being like, how do I want to address it? And so, cliche or not, like, sticks and stones will break your bones. Words, they hurt, you know what I mean? But I think they hurt when you aren't sure of who you are. I think that they penetrate deeper because then they start to poison the idea of question, or the idea of, like, how do you say it? Like, value. Like, how much do you value yourself? Well, somebody keeps calling me a piece of shit and that I should die. Like, maybe I'm not worthy. Well, no, hell no. I know for a damn fact I'm worthy, but if you're in that position, or that beginning stage of having to re-accept yourself, especially depending on your environment, if it's not as accepting, sometimes you allow those judgments to really affect you. So with me, it wasn't avoidance, but it's really, you know what I mean? Like, if you see these people over here, are, I don't know, lighting shit on fire, and then these people over here are reading books. Do you want to go light shit on fire, or do you want to go learn something? You know what I mean? And so I think at that point, it was more like making the right decision to surround yourself, so that way, especially in that beginning part of having to accept your own judgment, because you start judging yourself too, it was building all the foundations to when other people judge me, it's like, yeah, you're ignorant. Like, you don't know me. You can judge my character, or my outer character, but judge my character. Sit down and talk to me. And then I think too, I've had a number of conversations, a number of people that I've had to meet, because like I said, I've been working since I was 13. I've met a number of people in different age varieties that after a little bit of time of getting to know me, they're like, dude, you're dope. Like, you're cool as shit, and then you get people to see you again for the Amanda that I am, not the outer persona that you initially saw.
So let me ask you this: how did you build this self-esteem? Where I think about a lot of our peers. I think about just young people in general. We have low self-esteem and don't know how to maneuver through spaces and be like, this is who I am. I know who I am, and I'm worthy, and I'm allowed to be here. So how did you build that over time? Has that always been in you?
No. Well, yes and no. Like, I would think, like, in more recent years, sometimes you gotta fall. You gotta fall smack on your fucking face, and you gotta fall hard, And like, a friend of mine the other day was like, it doesn't matter how you fall, it just depends on how you get up. And everything is really cliche, but it's the truth, Growing up, my mom was really big on like sit up straight, stop slouching. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really big, like, I'm really a chill person. She'd be like, stand up straight. Your presentation matters, in the world. Like I said, my mom's like super educated, right? And she's the only person my whole life that's been there, right? So to me, I have a very deep admiration and love and respect for my mom. And I think they say that the most sincerest form of admiration is imitation. So looking at my mom, to me, like, she was a single woman. It wasn't even single Latina. She was a single woman who was raising kids, who had family around, and we had awesome memories growing up. You know what I mean? So I just watched, but I remember watching her at night, up late doing homework, after a long day of work. I remember her being at all my games that she could be at, even if she showed up late, if she came at halftime, she made it. You know what I mean? Like, it was important to, like, hold your word. It was important to, like, do your best at work, get noticed, get recognized, get promoted, get whatever. But if I told you I'm going to be there, I'm going to damn sure try my hardest to be there, you know? So I think I had a really good role model, to be honest, in a different way. Not a role model in how to be gay, not a role model in how to be strong or whatever. It was a role model on how to be a decent human being. And to be viewed as that. Like, a lot of my family views my mom as the one that they can always go to for advice. She holds no judgment. If she can help you, she'll give you her last dime type of thing. But she'll also make sure that her last dime doesn't put her immediate family in danger. You know? So I think growing up, I had this really, like, strong personality. I definitely would talk your ear off, but I would know shit so that I could talk to you. And it wasn't like you could poke fun at me for being dumb or for being this or for being that. You could make fun of me for talking a lot. You could make fun of me for how gullible I was. You know what I mean? Like, to me, like, innocent things. But you couldn't make fun of me because I was a piece of shit. You couldn't make fun of me because I was a liar. You couldn't make fun of me because you know, I didn't have really strong, decent human qualities. Like, you know how you go to elementary school and you have pillars? You know, treat others how you want to be treated. Like, all that type of stuff. So I think when I kind of came out, it was hard because you're not sure if you're making the right decision, right? So there's the doubt. So I think building the sense of esteem in myself in that, I think I had the foundation of, like, I know I'm a good person, so I don't understand why people are being assholes, you know? So I think what it took was just kind of, like, finding that there is a community of people, you know? And then the problem that I made is that I only started identifying with the community, and I was like, no, because then that makes you prejudiced. Like, I remember there was a moment where I was like, I don't understand gay guys. And then I had to sit back and be like, hold on, like, who am I to say I don't understand them? Who am I to form some type of judgment when all I get is judgment of people talking shit about why do I look like a little boy? You know what I mean? And then I think that's when my mind started opening up and realizing that it's everybody inclusive. You just have to find people. Again, are you going to go with the people that are setting shit on fire and talking shit and talking down on you and people have questions, but how are their questions formed? Are they wanting to know, or are they asking you to kind of, like, talk shit about you, you know? Or are you going to hang out with the people that make you better, you know, that make you understand that, like, yeah, you're gay and what? So I have questions on my homework. Can you help me? You're smart in class. You know what I mean? Hey, I got something going on and you're a really good listener. Like, can you talk to me? I don't give a fuck if you're gay. You know what I mean? I think it was that. Again, finding the right tunes, because even in college, you know, we were young when we went to college. You have a lot of people who are closed-minded, and then you have older people that are not.
So let me ask you this, because, again, talking about how you were probably usually one of the cool kids, being on varsity and being good at your sports and stuff, and also being, and again, like, that being our first interaction with other gay girls was a lot of people on our team. My experience, even though I was an outsider, same team, but I was an outsider, I would observe some of those toxic behaviors, you know, coming from those gay girls, you know, and I never felt like I could relate to them, you know what I mean, for so many levels, even though we may be similar, like, interested in a lot of similarities. I guess I'm curious of, like, you're around those people, who may have not always made the best decisions. And, you know, you were talking about how, like, we're the people we surround ourselves with, something that I also agree with. I'm curious of, like, you getting to college, playing college ball, things like that. I want to know about your journey of the stumbling, you know what I mean? The stumbling and falling, because, you know, when we met, this is already your second college, you're back in Arizona, we meet at NAU.
My third one.
Know. Huh?
This was my third one.
Your third one? See, like, what... Like, you know, it's sounding like you have, I mean, obviously we're talking at 30, you know, happy belated, by the way.
Thank you.
I want to talk about the past, you know, decade, you know, the past 12 years, like, what happened in terms of, like, you being Amanda, and and making the decision that you're making, but yet, there's a lot of stumbling in between. I just want to talk about that, and then us talking about how you're standing up today. So
I mean, take it back. Go back 12 years. Take it back. Initially, I was born into a military family. So from the beginning, I think I was 12 days old. I was born here at Luke Air Force, and I moved to Connecticut. So since I was little, I've moved. I've always been the new kid. So when my parents separated, my mom came out here in Arizona. I lived with family in downtown Phoenix. Went to that elementary school. Then we moved to Metro Center area. I went to another elementary school by 2nd grade. Then I switched to another elementary school in 5th grade. Then I went to 1 junior high, 2 high school. So I moved a lot of houses and apartment wise, we only stayed in one apartment. But everything was still almost every 2 to 3 years or so, we were still moving. And so there was one house I moved into in 2000, Halloween in 2000. And we stayed there for 6 years. So it was the longest that I've ever in my whole life stayed in one place. And so that's also when I kind of had made that friendship, like I told you, from the YMCAs and whatnot. So those were kind of a lot of my core friends. And then in high school, switched to 2, right? And then I left, went to West Virginia. I went to West Virginia, GCC, NAU, and University of Phoenix before I got my degree. So I think a lot of the moving that I have done in my life, I always had to do the introduction, making new friends, weeding people out. I had a lot of exposure in the sense of here's the apple, right? Don't eat it. But depending on who you hang out with, you're either going to listen or you're not. And I had a lot of exposure to brand new people at different sets of my age that I could have easily been I want to hang out with them. They're cool. I'm the new kid, But like I said, the example that I had of my mom, she was never abusive, but something within her, whether it was my level of respect, the biggest thing for me was ever dishonoring her or embarrassing her. That was more of the killer for me than just being a badass and then her yelling at me or something. So somehow, whether it's just who I am or if it's how my mom raised me, I was really conscious of I don't want her to be mad at me. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get grounded, all of those little things. So when I went off to college, that's more the whole, I was 17. So I was can't touch me. I'm 3,000 miles away. What? We're on a different time zone, ma. Yeah, I'm at the dorm. Not, you know what I mean? Just buck wild, just doing too much. And I think at that point, instead of always doing the status quo, which I mean, now that I'm older, I'm I should have just listened. I should have just listened, damn it. But now back then when I was younger and kind of always feeling I wanted to do all that badass stuff, but I couldn't because I had to go home to my mom and face her. When I didn't have to, I was let's see what this life is about. And it is. It's an awesome taste. You know what I mean? It is fun to just kind of live life on that edge. And I definitely have one too many experiences and memories and stories and whatever. But I think that's when I kind of started stumbling, to be honest with you. When it's almost okay, I came out when I was 11, but it was easy for me. When it was hard for me to come out was when I came out to my mom. Because at that point, that's that impactful relation to me. Friends, to me, you know me at least, I'll forget you. Not on purpose and not to be an asshole, but it's so accustomed to me to not really maintain these really long, deep, lasting relations that to me it's whatever. So somebody like my mom, who, like I said, has been around my whole life, or my family, to come out, that was hard. So you stumble in who you want to be. So when I was 17, turned 18, went to college, then I was trying to be this new person, this person who was like, hell yeah, I'm down to go. Let's go, but then still trying to also, because I had a full ride scholarship to play ball in college. So I wanted to party and have fun with all these kids that didn't have the responsibilities that I did, but I played volleyball and basketball in college. So I would still have 5 a.m. practice, noon workouts, afternoon conditioning, volleyball practice. And then because I was in the sports team, a big thing that coaches like to do is keep your schedule full. So my first year of college at 17, 18, I took 38 credits in 1 year. So it, like, how I still maintained doing all of the extra stuff was because even though my schedule was packed and I had all these sports obligations, I was used to that. So again, I had a solid foundation of who I am. So on paper, I still looked awesome. But I was like, I want to go to that party. No, I don't know who's driving, and I have no idea who these strangers are in the car, but let's go. Where like the normal me would have been like, I'll take my own car. So that was kind of like my freshman year. My freshman year was a lot of like, I just want to do it. My sophomore year, I moved back to Phoenix, and I decided to go to community college because I was going to pay for $1 out of pocket. So there, I did it again though. Instead of work, I worked like 2 full-time jobs, like a part-time job, and I was going to school. I think I took like another like 35 credits. And then
why didn't it work in West Virginia?
Personally, I got bored. And again, if I was older, I would have been like, suck it up, buttercup. I got bored being in West Virginia. I didn't have a car. West Virginia is very different than the East Coast. And then also being in West Virginia, at least at that time, they would kind of make the joke that West Virginia was years behind in the sense of like acceptance. Like I remember one time I needed cash because I was a broke college student and I was trying to sell. Remember when those Bluetooth things came out? The first ones though that would beep all bright blue. Yeah. I was like, hey, I need to sell this, and he looked at me like, what is this? Like, who would buy this? And I was like, anybody with a phone, like. Any of us. Me and my friends, a lot of the friends that I had there were from like Georgia or like Baltimore area, so a lot of like the black demographic. There was like some kids from Puerto Rico that were on the baseball team. I thought they were all gay. I thought that we were like all friends because I've never heard another grown man call another grown man papi. That's all they would call each other. They're like, oye papi, oye papi, and I'd be like, are you guys like on my team? And they're like, no. But, so, like, we would go to restaurants to, like, get food, and you wouldn't get served. You wouldn't get seated. So, a lot of, like, racist stuff was still out there in that time. So, I just personally was like, I'm not feeling it. Like, I don't want to do it. And I thought I was going to come back to Arizona and keep playing ball. But then I started overworking myself and just felt like money was more of the necessity than the desire to play. And then I kind of started stumbling on that because my whole life, my identity outside of everything was to play ball. Like I had the dreams to play professionally, and I was on the way there. And when I stopped playing ball, I think that's when I started like really losing my focus, like my focus in school. Like my grades started slipping because my initiative to get good grades was to always be eligible to play. You know what I mean? Like my initiative to stay in shape was so that I could play the whole game because I never really sat. My initiative to kind of like be on a schedule or like kind of deny certain things was because I had obligations to my sports. So when I stopped playing, I felt like that's when I really started stumbling in life because gay, straight, daughter, friend, whatever, to me, I was a ball player, and now I wasn't. So when I started struggling is because I don't feel like I had a goal. I didn't have a goal. I was maintaining. I was working. I was going to school. It was normal, but there was no drive. So then I started meeting all these kind of different people. Because, when you play sports, for the most part, you have somewhat the same set of friends. People who do something really similar, whether, orientation or not. Everybody wants to go play pickup. Everybody wants to go to the sports games. Everybody wants to do something similar. Where now I started meeting people who were druggies or alcoholics or super smart people or people who just worked or lazy people who didn't work and lived with mom or just people that I didn't necessarily identify, but I was curious of who they were, and you explore and then you realize that that's not what you want. So then you have to, again, readjust yourself. So me, how I'm really adaptable, no matter who I hang out with, because I move so much, I'll fit in that area. So, like, popular or not, I just had a really easy way of, like, identifying with a group. And so I would be like, oh, this was cool for a couple of months. Like, there was a moment in my life where I stopped hanging out with hearing people. I had nothing but deaf friends. Like, I learned sign language in the whole night. For, like, 6 months, I didn't even hang out with anybody who could, like, hear or, like, talk. And so I was just really curious. I was still really young. I think at that point I was, like, 20 still, or, like, 19. And so I was too excited in too many things that, how you have to allow dedication and focus to really let something grow. Everything was like a quick ember, quick fire. And so then I went to NAU, then I met you. And even there, like, I think I was having fun. But I think at that point I started getting like, okay, like, I'm a junior. I need to graduate. What am I going to do? I was like, 20, 21 when I was there. So a lot of it was that I didn't want help from anybody. Like, I didn't want my mom to pay for anything. I didn't want anybody to have their hands in the pots of telling me what to do. Because now I had lost who I was. So everything to me was, like, really, like, kind of bitter. Like, I was irritated. I wanted to play ball, but then I started finding excuses instead of just doing it. I think at that point that's kind of when I turned I isolated myself from everybody so I could stop, like, in my mind, to stop falling, and stop struggling. But then when you do everything on your own, it's very hard. And I think it took me to get out of my last relationship and have all of these experiences that I have, because I fell flat on my face. I fell into debt. I fell into depressions. I fell into a lot of things. And instead of just consistently changing the environment, it was the first time that I had to say, okay, like, you have to just get through it. Like, this is following you now. Now debt doesn't escape you. You know what I mean? Like, now, this depression shit that you're going through, this isn't you, but it's following you and it's pushing away everybody in your life, kind of thing. So really, I would say in the last 2 years, it took me up until, I would say maybe about like 6 months ago, for me to be like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, set a goal, set a game, set a manageable goal, and let go of the pride, a lot of pride and everything. I was like, I'm not going to ask anybody for help. I did this to myself. I'm going to figure it out. I'd moved out when I was like 17. I stayed with my mom for about 4 or 5 months when I was 28, needing help, needing somebody to say, come here. She didn't give me money, but she gave me peace of mind. And I think she reinstilled, like, she had a conversation, and she doesn't really speak on my issues. And she was like, I didn't raise you to be weak. Those were her words. She said, I didn't raise you to be like this. So I don't know what you need to do, but you need to figure it out, because I didn't raise a daughter to be weak. And it meant a lot to me, because it reminded me, like, enough. Like, stop running, stop falling, deal with it.
So how have you been picking yourself back up? What has been getting done? What have you been figuring out?
Just trying to find stability. Like, even now, like, I've had this apartment, Halloween would be a 1 year. And I was like, I should move, I should find this. And I'm like, I shouldn't. I do that all the time. I get an apartment, I live in it for a year, and I move to another one. But every time I do that, you need $1,400 for the down payment. You need rent, you need moving, you need all of that. I'm like, you know what? I'm fine where I'm at. So I'm going to renew the lease, right? So instead of like constantly, I had to exhaust something that I had been working very, very hard in when it came to like money and savings. So that's where like my pride had to get let go, because I needed to take care of the dumb things that I had done. Even though I had intentions for this large lump sum, I needed to let it go and start back over. So when it comes to like work, like I've always worked. I think my whole life, I think I've maybe not worked for like 6 months. So like I've been steady in work. I've been putting out stuff to get like promotions and whatnot. And then with the business that I'm working on, my art business and tattooing and everything, in the last few years, there was just too many things. Like, again, for me, there's too many little fires. So the dedication that it takes to build something, I wasn't doing it. So I'd say in the last 6-7 months, I mean, that's all my attention has been going to. I let go of all the things that are interesting, you know, for a moment. Not that I don't enjoy life, but I'm not indulging in all of it. You know, it's fun for a night or two, back to business. So I would say in the last about 5 months, I mean, tenfold. I mean, I've been insanely busy. And I think it really came back down to like when you feel down and you feel that you're losing in life, you unintentionally create this aura that is negative and toxic, and people don't want to be around it. Now I think, you know, if you believe in energy like that, I think my aura flipped. You know, it's very inviting, it's very energetic, it's exciting. And really, I think that's what it was. It was more like, it was a really spiritual kind of like journey to kind of go through. Because even when I got my apartment, I remember my mom came to visit, is what it was. And she was like, why do you look so sad? And I was like, I worked so hard and I had everything in my last place, pretty much is what it was. And I was like, now I have to restart. But the comment was, yeah, but you're starting. So a lot of it comes from having to remember that who raised me was, it doesn't matter what you're doing, do it. You feel sad for a moment, but being sad doesn't get you there. Feel sad, get back, go. And it's always been that. In my mind, it's always been like, okay, that's the setback. Here's the next plan. I can execute it. That didn't work. Here's another plan. Try that. It's always, there's never been this whole like recall of like just sitting there and being like, I don't know what to do. There's always like a movement forward.
Yeah. So if you can go back to your younger self, what advice would you give them to make this process maybe a little bit easier?
I think when you're younger, like young, like when you're like in 3rd grade and somebody takes your lunchbox and throws it, right? It's like they all hate me, nobody likes me. But no, like that kid don't like you. The rest of the school probably loves you, you know? I think if I was younger, I wouldn't let it seem so big. You know, the problems that I had weren't so big. It's just that I didn't know how to address them. So I think with time, I've learned that it's not about how you communicate, but it's the understanding of it. I think it's also understanding that you don't have to accept everybody's opinion. You know, and not everybody has an awesome family line. If you do, use them, resource them, utilize it. You know, if you have awesome friends, like utilize and resource them. Like you don't have to do it all by yourself. But I think if it was me and I was younger, like live. Like I've just been working. Like now I'm 30, I've literally been working more than half my life. And I'm going to continue working, you know, for the rest of my life. Enjoy it, live, you know what I mean? It's not that bad that your mom doesn't want you to go out until 3 a.m. Because what are you more than likely going to get at 3 a.m.? You know what I mean? Like some fun times, but possible DUIs, possible, you know what I mean? Like if your family's willing to let you live at home and save so that you can have a better life, do it. If you want to go and explore and you want to do it all on your own, do it. But, don't shut people out. I think for me, if I could redo it when I was younger, it would be more like just living. I think when I was younger, I did a lot of like strategic moves. Like I have to do this, I have to do that, and I missed out on just being able to hang out with my friends or, go places and experience them because I put the self-doubt before the actual outcome happened.
So who is Amanda today? Who is Amanda at 30? Who is that person that your mom taught you to be and that you're becoming?
I think I'm a really optimistic person. I think that's something that I've never let go away. I think I have my battle scars, but I definitely think that I don't wear them. Again, I think that I've always wanted to just be seen as just Amanda. And I think when you see it, I want you to see that I work hard. I'm passionate. I think I'm a good friend, but, everybody has their interpretation. But I think who I am today is just somebody who gets up and just tries to look at the day like it's another opportunity. Whereas before, I didn't. Before, it was just like, it was localized. So today, I think I look at the world like, what do I want to do today? How do I want to take advantage of it?
And again, speaking upon us reaching a new decade, what do you want this next decade to look like for you? What do you feel like you're working towards and would look like a successful 40 for you?
Yeah. Well, right now with the type of business that I do, I want to shop. I do. I want an art shop. I have a couple of plans for that. I do want to travel, but not to the extent that everybody always says. Like, again, my business can travel. I want to be able to tattoo from the West to the East Coast, maybe get a passport and go to a different country and do conventions or something. I definitely want to invest in property. I think to me, to be successful from my 30s to my 40s, I think I want to make a lot of moves. I think I want to make a lot of business moves. Romance comes and goes, and if it comes, then I invite it. But if it goes, then I think a lot of times people will lose themselves, from my own experience. You lose yourself when you dedicate into the romance. And not saying to not do it, but for me, if it's meant for me, I think that's something that like a new model I kind of went by. I definitely bust my ass for everything I want, but I think when you choke hold something, it's not meant for you. And so I just kind of want to just bust my ass. I want to make the things that I want for me happen, and I want whatever's not supposed to be for me to just go. I think going into my 40s, if I can accomplish that, I think I would feel damn successful.
Amanda and I finally got off the Zoom call. We just got done talking for 4 hours. And I hope you all know that, like, even though you all see a snippet of the interview, we actually get the chance to talk for a little bit longer afterwards. And since her and I already had history, we had a lot to catch up on. But I hope you all enjoyed that conversation I had with Amanda. Something that I really appreciate about her is that she's very big on just being a good person, being a person of character. And I feel like that's something that's really missing in the world, but also missing in our community. I think a lot of times we feel so identified with our identities, that we kind of forget that at the end of the day, we're all just human and that we're here to leave this place better than we found it. That may not be true for everybody, but the least we can do is help each other instead of hurt each other. And that's something that I felt like I've always connected with Amanda. And, as you all got to know, she's gone through some hard times, but to see her come out of it and to be able to face the adversity that she has and be able to still stand up and still be true to herself and find her way back to herself. I think that's something that's really admirable and something that we all need to take note of. And that life is going to get hard, especially for us tomboys. And even though life may not look like the way that we thought it could be or the way that it should be, it doesn't mean that we should stop trying and that we shouldn't stop trying to be a better version of ourselves. At the end of the day, Amanda, I'm proud of you. I'm so grateful that we had the chance to reconnect and that I hope that we can continue our friendship because you're actually a tomboy I've known for a very long time now, and I wish you nothing but success with your tattoo journey, and I can't wait until the day that you are unbookable and I can't get any way into your appointment, into your availability book, but because we're homies, you go put me in anyways. So for all of you that are out there that are just going through hard times, just know that the person that you were prior to the world telling you who you are is the person that we should continue to cultivate, that innocence in us, that person who tried to just do better and be better. And I feel like as long as we continue to do that through our journey in this life, I feel like we're gonna be pretty good in the end. So thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. If you want to follow us on social media, you can at Tomboi International. If you want to follow my personal account, it's k.short. Other than that, I'll see you all in the next episode. Take care of yourself. Bye.